Hello, my name is Ivan Ivanovich Smirnov. I am an internist and have been working in this field for 50 years. This year, I turned 83. Have you ever wondered how I managed to stay healthy at such an advanced age? Everything changed when I learned the truth about the vinegar I had long believed was beneficial for the body. Friends, perhaps you have also noticed that your body is no longer the same as in youth. In the morning, you wake up with pains in various parts of your body, and at night you can't sleep, constantly tossing and turning. You take medication for hypertension and diabetes, but your health continues to decline, and the treatment bills keep rising, don't you think? As a doctor, I discovered something shocking. People who regularly consume vinegar for health often end up in the hospital. Especially dangerous is the vinegar sold in stores. It hides a real threat. 70-year-old Anna Petrovna Ivanova drank apple cider vinegar in hopes of improving her health. And after 3 years, her liver function tests were 3 times above normal. Even I, as a doctor, could not believe it at first. But my brother, who worked in the pharmaceutical company for over 30 years and studied the food industry, revealed to me a terrible secret of this field. I learned why pharmaceutical companies allow such dangerous vinegar to exist. If you watch this video to the end, you can keep your health for many years. But if you don't watch it to the end, you risk living 10 years less than your peers. Subscription and like are free. So, let's begin. Many of you may think that vinegar is good for the body. How can it hasten death? It lowers blood pressure and helps regulate blood sugar, right? Yes. Vinegar can indeed be beneficial, I admit that. But there are 5 reasons why it can be dangerous. These reasons turn even quality vinegar into poison. This is a secret that pharmaceutical companies will never reveal. If you avoid these 5 mistakes, vinegar can truly become a remedy. But if you continue to consume it without knowing the consequences, your liver may suffer, holes may form in your stomach, and you will have to go to intensive care. Let's start with the 5th reason. I will tell you about it last, as it is the most dangerous. The 5th reason. Drinking vinegar immediately after a meal. You have probably heard that a glass of vinegar after a meal improves digestion. I used to think so too, but it's really a dangerous misconception. 3 years ago, a 69-year-old man named Pyotr Ivanovich Kuznetsov came to my clinic, and his story is very indicative. Every day after lunch, he consumed rice vinegar bought at the market, diluted in water, and washed down with a cool beverage, claiming it improved digestion. But after 3 months, he developed a stomach ulcer, a condition where a hole forms in the stomach. Grandfather couldn't sleep at night due to severe stomach pain, and even a small amount of food caused him to vomit. Why did this happen? When we eat, gastric juice is produced in the stomach to help digest food. However, if vinegar is added, it reacts with stomach acid and erodes the stomach walls, as if it were a dangerous chemical substance. Especially for people over 60, the stomach wall becomes more vulnerable compared to the young. Therefore, this can be even more dangerous. Peter Ivanovich completely stopped using vinegar after meals, as I recommended. And after 6 months, during a follow-up examination, the ulcer had completely healed. Follow this advice. If you want to drink vinegar, do it at least 2 hours before the meal, and always dilute it in water, at least 10 times. Never consume vinegar in its pure form. But wait, there is a more serious problem. The 4th danger I will talk about can lead to much more serious consequences. One person ended up in intensive care because of it. Keep listening. So, the 4th, the consumption of vinegar with medications. How is this related to medicine? You may wonder. I didn't know either, but the consequences are truly terrible. Medications for blood pressure, diabetes, digestive disorders, even for colds. Almost all of them turn into toxic substances when they come into contact with vinegar. This is yet another secret that pharmaceutical companies hide. 2 years ago, in winter, it happened. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a call came from the intensive care unit. The doctor reported that the patient had lost consciousness. The pressure dropped to 60. The person loses consciousness, then comes to and says, "I urgently went to the hospital." This was 72-year-old Maria Ivanovna Petrova. Usually, the grandmother took medication for blood pressure and diabetes. Why did this happen at that moment? When I asked in detail, the following became clear. Grandmother believed it was beneficial, and every evening, 30 minutes after taking her medicine, she drank apple cider vinegar diluted in water. This continued for 2 years. But why did she fall that day? The vinegar and medicine met, and the effect of the medications intensified too much. I will explain. When we take medicine, it is slowly absorbed by the body. But if you add vinegar, the absorption rate suddenly increases, like pressing the gas pedal hard. One day, if you suddenly brake, you will stop slowly, but if you do it twice, an accident may happen. And so it happened. The grandmother's blood pressure unexpectedly dropped to 60. Normal pressure is 120, and 60 is less than half. As a result, blood doesn't reach the brain, and the person loses consciousness. Even more frightening is that if this happens again, it could cause brain damage, possibly leading to dementia, and in severe cases, even brain death. Fortunately, Maria Ivanovna quickly reached the hospital and received the necessary treatment, but she had to spend 3 days in the hospital, and her family was in shock. I told my grandmother, "If you take medication, never drink vinegar, especially within 2 hours after taking it. It's even more dangerous." After that, grandmother completely refused vinegar. Now her condition is controlled only by medication. Follow this advice. If you take any medications, be careful with vinegar. If you are very thirsty, consult a doctor. And never drink vinegar for 2 hours after taking medications. But there is another serious problem. The third danger I will tell you about is even more shocking. One man ruined his liver due to vinegar and needed a transplant. It's truly a scary story, but you must know it. Keep listening. So, the third danger: consuming vinegar on an empty stomach. Hi, isn't it better to consume vinegar on an empty stomach? That's what they say on TV, right? I thought so too, and it turned out to be a big mistake, especially when it comes to those who drink vinegar right after waking up. It is truly dangerous, as the acid enters an empty stomach and starts to erode its walls. However, pharmaceutical companies never mention this threat. A year ago, a family brought in 5.5-year-old Vasily Petrovich Sokolov to my clinic. His face was white as chalk. He was clutching his stomach and complaining, "Doctor, it hurts like a fiery ball inside." Grandfather lost 5 kilograms and food made him vomit. Even water burned inside him. After a detailed interrogation, he told his story. He had diabetes and found information online that vinegar on an empty stomach helps lower blood sugar. For 6 months, he got up at 6 in the morning and drank rice vinegar diluted with water. At first, everything was fine. His sugar levels dropped a bit, but after 3 months he began to feel a burning sensation in his stomach. Despite this, he continued, believing it was beneficial. But after 6 months, disaster struck. During an examination, it was discovered that Vasily Petrovich had developed a hole in his stomach. In medicine, this is called perforation. The stomach wall had completely dissolved and ruptured. Why did this happen? Our stomachs are empty all night. If vinegar is suddenly poured in such a state, what will happen? It's like pouring boiling water into an empty cup. It will crack, and the stomach wall won't withstand it and will dissolve. But the most terrifying thing is if a hole forms, the contents of the stomach leak into the abdominal cavity, leading to peritonitis, a dreadful disease. In severe cases, this can end in death. Vasily Petrovich required emergency surgery that lasted 5 hours, and he spent 2 weeks in the hospital. The operation cost over 500,000 rubles. His daughter, in tears, said to me, "Doctor, Dad wanted to be healthy." We did not expect this. It was sincerely sad. A well-meaning man took care of his health and faced such misfortune. Fortunately, the operation was successful, and grandfather recovered. But now he must be careful for the rest of his life. His stomach is weakened. Never drink vinegar on an empty stomach, especially right after waking up. It is even more dangerous. If you still want to drink vinegar, wait at least an hour after eating, and be sure to dilute it well with water. Now I will tell you about another shocking thing. Did you know that 90% of the vinegar sold in stores is actually a counterfeit made in a chemical plant? My brother, who worked for 30 years in a pharmaceutical company, revealed to me the secrets of this industry that I will soon expose. This is truly shocking. Don't miss it. So the second, drink synthetic vinegar from the store. Check the vinegar at home. If the label says synthetic vinegar or glacial acetic acid, throw it away immediately. It is not a food product, but a chemical composition. Now I will tell you about the real secret that my brother revealed to me after 30 years of working in the pharmaceutical field. Why do pharmaceutical companies allow such a dangerous synthetic vinegar to exist? You will learn the hidden truth. It turns out that 90% of the vinegar we see on store shelves is actually a counterfeit produced in chemical factories. However, pharmaceutical companies never disclose this information, as there is a complex network of interests between them and the vinegar manufacturers. Do you know what it's made from? From chemical substances obtained from oil, as if we are talking about plastic production. We consume this believing it is good for our health. Last week, a 70-year-old Olga Sergeyevna Nikolaeva was admitted to my clinic, and I will tell you her story. For 15 years, grandmother used store-bought apple cider vinegar to maintain her health. Suddenly, her body began to turn yellow. Even the whites of her eyes became completely yellow. The family was horrified and rushed grandmother to the hospital. During the examination, I was shocked. My grandmother's liver was damaged by more than 80%. It was the final stage of liver cirrhosis. I asked my grandmother if she had ever consumed alcohol. She replied that she had never touched a drop in her life. Then I inquired if she had taken any medications. She said that only vinegar daily is good for health. Then I realized that the problem was the vinegar she had been using for 15 years. I checked the ingredients of the vinegar she used. The main component in the list was glacial acetic acid. This chemical is used in the production of plastics and dyes. When such chemistry enters the body, the liver tries to neutralize it. In the first few days, it's normal, but after 15 years of daily use, it wears out and breaks down, like a water filter that cleans dirty water for a long time and eventually fails. Grandma needed a liver transplant. Fortunately, her son agreed to donate part of his liver, and the operation was successful. However, the operation cost 2 million rubles, and now she will have to take immunosuppressants for the rest of her life. After the operation, the grandmother confessed to me, "Doctor, I didn't know that store vinegar could be counterfeit." It was very sad. For 15 years, she drank poison, thinking about her health. An even more frightening fact is that synthetic vinegar occupies 90% of the market in our country. It is cheap, and therefore most manufacturers choose it, while pharmaceutical companies make huge profits from drugs aimed at treating the side effects of this chemical. This is a real secret they hide. Real vinegar is made from rice or apples fermented for over a year, which takes time and resources, while synthetic vinegar can be produced in a chemical plant in just 1 day, making it significantly cheaper. I advise you, always check the composition when buying vinegar. Choose fermented or brewed vinegar, and avoid synthetic or those containing glacial acetic acid. Even if it's more expensive, health is more important. And here's something even more shocking. Even if you buy quality vinegar, one mistake can ruin everything. One man ended up in intensive care and underwent gastric lavage. The most important point is that one should not drink vinegar in its pure form. You might say, "I dilute it in water." But in reality, you are consuming a much more concentrated solution than you think, and this can lead to serious health consequences. This is a secret that pharmaceutical companies strive to hide, because cases like this land patients in intensive care, and they make huge profits from their treatment. 6 months ago, something happened that I will never forget. At 4 in the morning, a call came from the intensive care unit. "Doctor, come urgently. The patient has a completely burned esophagus. It's very dangerous." I immediately headed to the hospital. The patient turned out to be Sergey Ivanovich Kozlov, who was 88 years old. Grandpa was unconscious. Blood was coming from his mouth. What happened? His wife, sobbing, told me. The evening before, her husband watched a health program. They said that vinegar is good for the body. As a result, he poured half a glass of pure apple cider vinegar and drank it in 1 gulp. It was a terrible mistake. Grandfather took vinegar in its pure form, undiluted, and in quite a large quantity. The acidity of pure vinegar is 2.53. Do you know how aggressive that is? It's stronger than gastric juice. It's as if he drank a powerful acid from a chemistry lab. Grandfather has burns on his mouth, throat, esophagus, and stomach. The esophagus is particularly damaged, almost completely dissolved. In medicine, this is called corrosive esophagitis. Even more horrifying is that such a burn continues to deepen, like a wound from fire. Grandfather needed emergency surgery. They washed out his stomach and inserted a tube into his esophagus so he could breathe. But unfortunately, it was already too late. 3 days later, a hole formed in the esophagus. The contents leaked into the chest cavity, leading to pneumonia. The situation became critical. Even the medical staff said that this time everything would be difficult. Fortunately, after a month and a half of treatment, Grandfather was able to recover. But now his esophagus is narrowed, and he can only eat small portions. This will cause him discomfort for his entire life. It was truly sad. He just wanted to be healthy, drank vinegar, and now will suffer. On the day of his discharge, his wife told me, "Doctor, if he had just diluted the vinegar with water, nothing would have happened." It was sad because it could have been prevented with a bit more caution. In fact, this is not the only case of Sergey Ivanovich. Every year, about 10 people end up in intensive care for similar reasons. Mostly these are people over 60. Some recover, but many suffer from the consequences for life. Why do such cases repeat? With age, the esophagus and stomach wall become weaker, 3 times weaker than in young people. Therefore, even the same concentration of vinegar poses a much greater danger. Moreover, television or the internet claims that vinegar is beneficial, and people immediately try it without knowing the correct and safe way to use it. This is why such incidents occur. Pharmaceutical companies do not even oppose the spread of dangerous information. It seems they only want to increase the number of patients. So remember, never drink pure vinegar. Always dilute it with water. The ratio of vinegar to water is 1:20. That is, 1 spoonful of vinegar to a glass of water. And do not drink a lot at once. Half a glass of diluted vinegar a day will be quite enough. Friends, you have watched this video, and it is really important. So that what happened to Sergei Ivanovich does not happen to you, such a thing must not be repeated. Vinegar can be useful if consumed correctly, but it can pose a danger to life if misused. Be sure to tell your loved ones, especially elderly family members. They often lack such information, and your care for them is important. In the end, I will summarize how to properly use vinegar and maintain health. Friends, you have heard remarkable stories, but do not panic. If you know how to use vinegar correctly, it can become a good ally for your health. I will share 5 main rules for the safe use of vinegar that I have gathered over 50 years of working with patients. These are real health secrets that pharmaceutical companies prefer to keep quiet. The first rule: never drink vinegar on an empty stomach. In the morning, right after waking up, or before eating, it is categorically undesirable. Give the body at least an hour after eating. There should be food in the stomach to protect its walls. The second rule: dilute vinegar well. The ratio should be 1:20 with water. 1 tablespoon of vinegar per glass of water. It may seem that more concentrated vinegar is better, but it's actually poison. The third rule: watch your daily dosage. Do not consume more than half a glass of diluted vinegar a day. More does not mean better. It only burdens the liver and stomach. The fourth rule: choose only fermented vinegar. When buying in a store, be sure to check the composition. Use only fermented or cultured vinegar, avoiding synthetic or acetic acid. Fifth rule: if you take any medications, be sure to consult a doctor. Medicines and vinegar can cause unexpected side effects, so following these 5 rules will ensure your safety. It's not difficult, right? But if you have been using vinegar incorrectly until now, don't worry too much. Starting today, do it right. Peter Ivanovich, Maria Ivanovna, Vasily Petrovich, Olga Sergeyevna, and Sergei Ivanovich all cared about their health and faced difficulties. Now you know how to act correctly. Their experience has become an important lesson for you. I created this video so that no one else suffers from misinformation, and so you learn the truth that pharmaceutical companies hide. Vinegar, when used correctly, is indeed beneficial. It helps regulate blood pressure, control blood sugar levels, and improve digestion. But if used incorrectly, as I mentioned, it can be extremely dangerous. To ensure healthy aging, consume vinegar properly.